My sister cut me from her wedding. Then my parents begged me to pay for it after she canceled everything and broke down. After they cut me from Sierra's wedding, Dad didn't even flinch. Just smirked and said, "We don't need you." I blinked, stunned for a second, then let the words fall from my mouth like a stone. "Cool," I said. "Then don't expect a single cent from me either." And that's when the calls started flooding in. I'm Cole, 33 years old, and never, not in my wildest thoughts, did I think my little sister's big wedding would blow up into a full-on family storm. But it did. And not just any old drama, either. This was betrayal, rejection, and guilt all tangled into one giant emotional mess. It started when they decided to cut me out completely. No warning. No conversation. Just gone. Looking back, maybe I should have seen it coming. My family has always been complicated. Like walking on glass barefoot. Tight smiles, unspoken grudges, and old wounds we never really cleaned out. Still, this time, this wasn't just tension. It felt personal, deliberate, like they aimed this one right at me. Let me rewind a bit. Sierra and I, we've never been all that close. We're siblings, sure. We've had our laughs, our fights, and all the weird middle parts in between. But things were never deep, never unshakable, just surface. Then she got engaged. That's when the cracks turned into a canyon. She's always been the golden one. You know the type, beautiful, magnetic, everybody's favorite. The kind of girl who walks into a room and it just lights up. Even strangers fall in love with her in 5 minutes flat. Me? I've always been more the background guy. Not ugly, not weird, just quieter. I keep to myself. I listen more than I speak. And in a house where Sierra's every breath earned applause, it felt like I lived in the shadows. Still, when she found her fiancé, Devin, I was genuinely happy for her. Really, I wasn't one of those jealous brothers who secretly hoped her love life would crash and burn. No, I wanted her to be happy. But that didn't stop the slow fade, the way they began to edge me out. At first, I brushed it off. The wedding planning is crazy, I told myself. People get overwhelmed. It's not personal. But then they started skipping over my ideas. When I suggested venues, crickets, dress color input, ignored. I offered to help with the setup, even took time off work, and they waved me off like I was in the way. Too busy, they said. You've got a lot going on already. Maybe, but it started to feel like an excuse. Like they didn't want me there. Like they were pushing me to the edge on purpose. And then the call came. The one that flipped my whole world upside down. It was my mom on the phone. Her voice was all tight, like she was trying to keep herself together. I could hear the strain in every word. "Cole," she started, her voice catching. "We need to talk about Sierra's wedding." I tried to shake off the dread creeping up my spine. "Sure, Mom. What's up?" Her voice dropped even lower, like she was trying to tell me something she wasn't sure I'd be able to hear. "Well, Sierra's upset. She doesn't want you at the wedding. She's decided to cut you from the guest list." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I couldn't speak. My mouth went dry. And for a moment, all I could do was stare at the wall, feeling like the floor had just fallen out beneath me. "What?" I finally managed to croak out. "Cut me out? What do you mean?" "She's worried that your presence might cause more trouble. She's already stressed, and she thinks it's better this way. She doesn't want to make things harder on the big day," Mom said, her words stumbling over each other. "I am sorry, Cole. It's just, she's been under so much pressure." I felt something inside me snap. I wasn't some troublemaker. I wasn't the one throwing tantrums at family events. I wasn't the one causing drama. We had our differences, sure, but I never expected to be treated like I wasn't even family anymore. How could they do this? To me, of all people, the silence on the phone was suffocating. And after what felt like an eternity, I finally managed to squeeze out, "So, I'm just out?" Just like that. Mom's voice trembled as she replied, "I know it's hard to understand right now, but she thinks it's the best choice. Please try to understand." I felt a bitter laugh rise in my chest. Understanding? How could I understand this? They'd taken the one day I was supposed to feel like I belonged, and they'd ripped it away from me, left me out in the cold like I was just nothing. My own sister, the person I thought I could count on, just tossed me aside, and it hurt more than I could put into words. I didn't even have it in me to call Sierra. Every time I thought about it, my hand hovering over my phone, staring at her contact, it felt like a fresh wave of grief crashing into me. What would I even say? That I was heartbroken? That I felt betrayed? That I never thought my own blood would turn their back on me for the sake of a party? None of it would change a thing. The damage was done. So I did the only thing that made sense to me. I left. Not in a dramatic storm out the door kind of way. Quiet. Clean. I booked a last-minute solo trip to a beach town I'd always dreamed about but never had time or nerve to visit. It wasn't luxury. Just a little coastal nook where the tide didn't ask questions and the breeze didn't care what your last name was. I packed light. Just the basics. No tux, no gift, no fake smile for wedding photos I wouldn't be in. While the rest of them buzzed around town preparing for what was supposed to be Sierra's perfect day, I was walking barefoot along the shoreline, watching the waves crash like they were smashing apart everything I'd been holding in. And for a moment it felt good. Peaceful. I wasn't under anyone's spotlight. I wasn't stuck in Sierra's shadow. I wasn't being used or judged or pushed out. I was just me, unbothered, alone but not lonely. But peace doesn't last forever, especially when trouble knows your number. Just a few days into my escape, my phone started buzzing again. It was Dad. "Cole," he said, his voice sharp with panic. "We need your help." My heart sank. "What's going on?" I asked, already knowing the answer wouldn't be good. "It's Sierra," he said. She's falling apart. Everything's coming undone. The wedding's a mess." Of course. Now they needed me. I stood there, barefoot in the sand, phone pressed to my ear, listening to Dad scramble for composure. "Sierra's losing it," he said again, like repeating it would make it more believable. "Everything's going wrong. The ceremony's off track. People are confused. She's breaking down." I waited for the part that explained why that had anything to do with me. "We need you to come back," he said, voice desperate. "Please, son. You're the only one who can fix this." I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "The only one who can fix it? You mean the same guy you cut out like trash 2 weeks ago?" "Cole, please," he whispered. "I know it's a lot to ask, no." I cut in, my voice firmer than I expected. "It's everything to ask." Silence. Just the crashing waves behind me and Dad's shaky breath on the line. I couldn't believe the audacity. After all the hurt, all the silent treatments, all the backhanded dismissals. Now, they wanted me to swoop in like some kind of family savior? A janitor to clean up their emotional mess? I clenched the phone, my fingers shaking with something between rage and relief. Because even though it was infuriating, a part of me, a very old part, had waited for this moment, for them to finally need me. But I wasn't that guy anymore. "I'm on a trip, Dad," I said flatly. "One you all made very clear I wasn't supposed to take because I was too busy for the wedding. So no, I'm not coming back. You said you didn't need me, remember?" More silence. Then a softer voice. "Cole, we're begging you. Please. It's all unraveling. We need your help." I could feel a twisted little flicker of satisfaction light up in my chest. Was it petty? Maybe, but it was real. For once, they were the ones reaching for me. But I didn't say another word. I simply ended the call and stood there, letting the wind hit my face as I stared out at the sea. I wasn't their plan B anymore. I wasn't their emotional backup dancer. They pushed me out. Let them deal with the fallout. That night, as I lay in the quiet of my rented beach room, the phone lit up again. This time it was Mom. A message, not a call. "Cole, please. I know everything's tangled up, but Sierra's begging for you. She's having a full meltdown. The wedding's turning into a disaster. We're lost without you." I stared at the screen, my jaw tight. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, twitching, unsure. A part of me wanted to reply. Not to say I'd help, but to say something. Anything. To remind them how deeply they'd hurt me. To let them feel the echo of their choices. But instead, I just sat there, silent, watching the words, stewing in everything they meant. Because it wasn't just about a wedding anymore. It was about a lifetime of being the one they leaned on when things broke, but never the one they listened to before it all cracked. I'd spent years playing the fixer, the quiet support beam, the guy who always showed up no matter how invisible I felt. But not this time. This time, I needed space to breathe. To figure out who I was without carrying their guilt like a weighted blanket. By morning, my phone looked like it had been in a car crash. Dozens of missed calls. A pile of texts. Desperate. Pleading. One after the other. Then came another message from Dad. "Cole, please come back. It's worse now. Sierra's canceled the whole thing. It's off. Everything is falling apart." That line stopped me cold. The wedding's off? What did that even mean? Did she break it off with Devin? Did she leave him at the altar? Was it nerves? A breakdown? Something worse? I couldn't ignore that. I needed to hear it for myself. So I called Dad. Dad answered on the first ring, his voice ragged, like he hadn't slept in days. "Cole," he breathed, relief spilling out like steam from a cracked pipe. "You said the wedding's off," I said, skipping the small talk. "What happened?" He let out a long, broken sigh. I could almost picture him sitting there, rubbing his temples, searching for words that wouldn't make things worse. It was a disaster, he said quietly. Sierra, she lost it. Couldn't go through with it. She broke down in front of everyone. Devin's heartbroken. The guests were stunned. And now he paused. And now we're stuck with the fallout. I sank deeper into the mattress, fingers clenched tight around the phone. But everything was already paid for, right? The venue, the catering, everything. I asked, though I already knew where this was going. Yeah, Dad said. And that's the problem. What do you mean? He hesitated. That awful pause again. The kind that always came before he asked me for something. Well, that's where you come in. I closed my eyes, jaw tightening. Come in how? We can't cover it, Cole. Not all of it. Sierra's freaking out over the money, over everything. And you're the only one who can help. The only one who can fix this. And there it was. The real reason they called. Not for comfort. Not to apologize. Not because they missed me. Because they needed my wallet. I felt something hollow open up inside me. Like my stomach had just dropped through the floor. You're asking me to pay for a wedding I was kicked out of? I said, my voice shaking with disbelief. It's a huge ask, I know, he said. But Sierra's a wreck. And if we don't get this sorted, we're going to be buried in debt for years. I almost dropped the phone. This wasn't just a favor. They were asking me to save them from a financial nightmare I never even got to be part of. I sat there, my heart racing like I'd just run full speed into a wall. You want me, I said slowly, making sure each word landed, to pay for half of a wedding that I wasn't even allowed to attend? When you cut me out of? The silence that followed was deafening. Then Dad's voice came through, quieter now, but no less desperate. I get it. I do. It's not fair. But Sierra's spiraling, and this is bigger than her. This affects the whole family. We're drowning, son. I could feel my blood heat in my veins. The nerve. The absolute guts it took to ask me this. You all made it clear I wasn't welcome, I said, trying to keep my voice from cracking. You tossed me aside like trash, and now I'm suddenly supposed to show up with a checkbook and save the day? Please, Cole, he whispered. Don't do this. If you turn away now, I don't know how we come back from this. The family's hanging by a thread. There was. The guilt. The manipulation. They weren't just asking me to fix the mess. They were dangling family over my head like a threat. Help us, or lose us. I set the phone down for a second, covering my face with both hands, try to breathe. How many times had I done this dance? How many times had I picked up the pieces they shattered and glued them back together while they carried on like nothing happened? Too many. Way too many. I picked the phone back up, my voice low but steady. Dad, if you think I'm going to clean this up, you're dreaming. I've spent my whole life as your backup plan, your emotional sponge. But not this time. He didn't speak. I imagined him stunned on the other end of the line, for once having no words to twist the narrative. Sierra made her choice. I continued. And now she can deal with it. I'm not your lifeline anymore. And then I hung up. The moment I ended the call, it felt like I'd kicked open a dam. Within hours, the messages started again. First Mom, then Dad, then cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Cole, please think about what you're doing. Family helps each other. We've done so much for you. Don't throw that away. Every notification was like a pebble thrown at my window. Soft but relentless. One after the other. I didn't answer. Not one. But the weight of it settled heavy on my shoulders. Because it wasn't just about the money anymore. It wasn't just about a canceled wedding or a breakdown. It was about the expectation, the belief that no matter how poorly they treated me, I'd still show up. Because I always had. And then, just when I thought the guilt campaign had reached its peak, Sierra textive. It wasn't a rant. It wasn't an apology either. It was something worse. Cole, please. We're drowning. This is a train wreck, and we don't know what to do. You're the only one who can help. Please. I sat there, reading it over and over. My thumb hovered over the reply button, and for a split second, I nearly caved. Because that was the trap, wasn't it? They didn't just rely on me to fix things. They expected me to. It wasn't a favor anymore. It was my duty, my role, the fixer, the quiet brother, the reliable one who never asked for anything back. But I wasn't that man anymore. Not after what they did. I set my phone down, turned it face down, and stared at the ceiling. The air felt thick. My chest, tighter than it had been in weeks. I thought about every time I'd pick them up when they stumbled, and how quickly they'd kick me aside when I needed them. And that's when the truth hit me, like a slap I didn't see coming. I was only valuable when I was useful. Never when I was hurting. Never when I needed love. Only when I could give something. And that realization broke something in me, but also set me free. The next morning, I woke up to a wall of unread messages, over a dozen. Missed calls. Voicemails. They were trying every angle. Guilt. Nostalgia. Panic. Even distant relatives were joining in now. And in the middle of it all, another message from Dad. Cole, I'm begging you. It's worse now. Sierra's completely unraveled, and the wedding is officially canceled. We're on the hook for everything. We can't afford this, and she's falling apart. You're the only one who can step in. Please. That last part hit like a punch in the ribs. You're the only one who can step in. Not we're sorry. Not you deserve better. Just another plea. Another expectation. I didn't respond. Not yet. I wasn't going to rush this time. Not out of anger. This wasn't about lashing out anymore. It was about clarity. About finally putting words to the pain they trained me to swallow. So I took my time. I sat with the silence for hours, let it wash over me. Thought back through the years, every time I was passed over, ignored, brushed aside. And then, with shaky fingers and a racing heart, I typed a message back to Sierra. Not out of spite, out of self-respect. Sierra, I've thought a lot about what you asked, about everything you said, and here's where I land. I can't keep being the one who cleans up the wreckage. I didn't break this. You did. You all did. And you made it clear I wasn't part of the celebration, but now you want me to cover the cost of the collapse. That's not love. That's not family. That's convenience. I'm done being your fallback, your safety net. I'm not going to sacrifice my peace, again, for people who only seem to remember I exist when something's on fire. I hope one day you understand this wasn't about money. It was about finally choosing myself. I'm out. Then I hit send and sat there, breath held, heart pounding like a drum. For a long time, nothing came back. No message, no call, just the quiet. But it wasn't empty. It felt like something had shifted, something big. For the first time in years, I wasn't reacting. I wasn't apologizing. I wasn't patching the hole. I was standing still while the storm passed. And it felt powerful. Hours turned into days. The silence didn't last long. My phone buzzed again, over and over. They were coming at me from all sides now. Mom, Dad, an uncle I hadn't spoken to in years. Even a couple of Sierra's bridesmaids sent messages like they were part of a PR team trying to spin a disaster. Don't throw your family away over this. She was just overwhelmed. Everyone makes mistakes. We've always supported you. Don't forget that. It was like watching a slow-motion collapse, with everyone clawing at me to catch the debris. I kept quiet. I held the line. But then, just when I thought I was finally getting through the worst of it, another text came in. This one was from Sierra herself. Short, cold, sharp enough to cut through bone. You know, I thought you were better than this. Turns out I was wrong. You're just selfish. Don't bother showing up to the family gathering this summer. You won't be welcome. I read it twice, maybe 3 times. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so painfully familiar. That was Sierra in her purest form. Deflect, blame, shame. When she couldn't manipulate you with guilt, she lashed out. She didn't apologize. She didn't reflect. She weaponized her pain and tried to pin it on me. But I didn't respond. I didn't give her that power. Instead, I stared at that message until it didn't sting anymore. Until it became what it really was, a final, desperate grab at control she no longer had. I deleted the text, took a deep breath, and reminded myself, I didn't start this war. I just stopped fighting for a place I was never given. 3 days later, just as the storm seemed to be dying down, she showed up. Not Sierra. Mom. I saw her through the glass before she even knocked, standing there in my driveway, clutching her purse like it was all that was holding her together. Her eyes were swollen, her shoulders tense, and her face was pale with the kind of exhaustion that went deeper than sleep could fix. For a second, I froze. Then I opened the door. Cole, she said, her voice breaking the moment my name left her lips. Please just hear me out. I leaned against the frame, arms folded, doing everything I could to stay steady. You're here. I'm listening. She stepped forward, slow, like she was walking through fog. Sierra's falling apart. She's not eating. She's not talking. She barely gets out of bed. And we're all, her voice trembled. We're all scared. I waited, stone-faced. No comfort. No reaction. Just the silence she'd given me weeks ago. We're sorry, she said next, finally. We were wrong. About everything. I didn't blink. I'd waited years to hear those words, and now that they were here, they didn't feel real. You kicked me out of the wedding, Mom, I said, calmly but with steel in my voice. Not quietly, not gently. You cut me off like I didn't matter, like I was some problem to be avoided. I know, she whispered. I know we did. And now that everything's crashed, you're here asking me to sweep it all up again. Same as always. Tears welled up her eyes. We didn't mean to hurt you. We were just caught up in everything. You always are, I said, my voice growing sharper. Caught up in Sierra. In her world. In her drama. And I've always been the one cleaning the mess. She reached out, like she wanted to touch my arm. I stepped back. I'm not your emotional janitor anymore, I said. Not your last-minute rescue. Not the brother you ignore until you need a check or a Band-Aid. But we're family, she said, pleading now. You don't just turn your back on family. I looked her right in the eye. You turned your back on me years ago. I'm just finally turning around. She flinched like I'd slapped her, but I didn't waver. For once in my life, I stood all the way up for me. I don't hate you, I added. I just can't do this anymore. She blinked fast, as if trying to clear away everything she didn't want to face. You'll regret this someday, she whispered, her voice cracking. No, I said, gently closing the door. I'll regret not doing it sooner. I stood there for a long time after I closed the door. The hallway was quiet, but my heart wasn't. It was pounding, not from fear, but from release. Like my body finally realized it wasn't shackled to their chaos anymore. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired. Like I just walked away from a house that had been burning for years. Only I'd been the only one trying to hold up the beams. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat in my living room in silence, letting the moment breathe, letting myself breathe. Because for the first time in as long as I could remember, no one was expecting anything from me. No guilt. No last-minute fixes. No drama. Just nothing. And somehow, that nothing felt like everything. The next few days were quiet. Eerily quiet. The calls slowed, then stopped. The texts dried up. No more desperate begging. No more manipulative guilt trips. At first, I was on edge, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Every time my phone buzzed, I braced for another wave of family drama. But it never came. And that stillness? It slowly started to feel like peace. I found myself doing things I hadn't done in years. Reading. Walking just a walk. Sitting in a coffee shop without looking at my phone every 2 seconds. Laughing. Actually laughing. With people who didn't know anything about the mess I'd stepped out of. I even picked up an old hobby I'd dropped years ago because I was too busy helping everyone else live their lives. And for once, I wasn't waiting for the guilt to creep in. Because it didn't. And in that space, in that quiet, I started to feel something I hadn't in a very long time. Like I belonged in my own life. About a week after I shut the door on all of it, on Sierra, on the chaos, on being the one they always ran to, my phone buzzed again. Just one message. From her. Sierra. No paragraphs this time. No demands. No threats. No guilt bombs. Just 7 plain words. I miss you. I wish it wasn't like this. I stared at it for a long time, my thumb hovering, my breath catching in my throat. No drama. No venom. Just quiet. But it wasn't an apology. Not really. It was vague. Hello. Like she was tossing a rope, hoping I'd do what I always did, grab it, reel it in, and save her from herself. But I didn't move. I just sat there, the phone screen glowing in the dim light, thinking about how many times I'd come running. Thinking about how often I'd picked her feelings over mine. How many pieces of myself I'd traded away just to keep the family together. And how it had never, ever been enough. So this time, I didn't run. I didn't chase. I typed my reply slowly, each word carved out of a truth I'd ignored for years. I miss the idea of us two, Sierra, but I can't keep doing this. I've spent too long carrying this family while being treated like I didn't matter. I need peace more than I need approval. I hope one day you find yours too. Then I hit send. Simple. Final. And for the first time in forever, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel like I was abandoning anyone. I felt like I was finally coming home to myself. The days that followed felt unfamiliar in the best way possible. No buzzing phone lighting up with other people's emergencies. No guilt gnawing at the edge of my peace. No pressure to play a role I never asked for. Just silence. Stillness. Freedom. I started waking up with my chest feeling lighter. Like something invisible had finally been unhooked from my ribs. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations. And you know what? I didn't miss it. I threw myself into the life I'd put off. Took a few road trips, reconnected with friends I hadn't seen since I'd been too busy fixing family problems. I joined a local photography club. I even picked up the guitar again, something I hadn't touched since college. Little by little, I was rebuilding myself from the inside out. And the guilt? Yeah, it still knocked on the door now and then. But I didn't let it in. I'd learned the difference between guilt and manipulation. Between love and obligation. And most importantly, between family and self-respect. There were moments, sure, where I missed them. The memories didn't disappear, but they weren't tinted in nostalgia anymore. They were clearer now. I could see the way I'd been treated without sugarcoating it. And I could finally say, without flinching, they didn't deserve my loyalty. Because loyalty without respect is just submission. And I'm done submitting to people who only see my value when they're desperate. Sierra never replied to my final message. Mom and Dad went quiet too. No calls. No texts. No unexpected visits. It's like they finally understood that the door wasn't cracked open anymore. And yeah, that hurt in its own way. But what hurt more, what had hurt for years, was trying to earn love that was always conditional. And now, I don't have to earn anything. I don't have to beg to belong. I don't have to carry a family on my back just to be seen. I get to walk my own road now. And every step I take, without their weight on my shoulders, is a step toward freedom. So, to anyone out there stuck in the same loop, being the fixer, the forgiver, the forgotten, let this be your sign. You don't owe anyone your peace. Not even family. Especially not family that only shows up when they want something from you. You can walk away. You can choose yourself. And that choice, it's not selfish. It's survival. And sometimes it's the only way to heal. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe for more real-life family dramas. Let me know in the comments what you think about today's story. Was it fair or totally messed up? See you in the next one.